Well, we got Mr. Greg back, Mr. Hydrogen Man. He hasn't been here in quite some time. But, folks, before we get going, we have to make an announcement. The Quantum Summit 1776 Part 2 is probably going to be the last Quantum Summit we're ever going to do, simply because I think this will be a celebration as Trump gets back, etc. And I believe there's going to be quite the amount of people coming. I think the tickets are going to sell out in record time. We even have Sheriff Mack coming to this one, and Jason Shirka and Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, the inventor of the scalar wave technology. I'm telling you, the website should be ready to go probably as early as Wednesday, Thursday next week. And get yourself some of the stuff from carminesgold.com. This is God's money. You can't fake this. This is the real deal. Gold and silver. Welcome to carminesgold.com. Don't waste not even a second looking. Cheaper prices just don't exist. How important is it for you to own gold and silver right now? What does it mean to me personally? There's an economy that's about to crash beyond what words can explain. In 5 words, I'm going to educate you on gold and silver. Are you ready? You need to own some. Simple. This is an ounce of silver. Okay. When you touch this, you'll understand why you need to own some. Okay. Definitely. We definitely offer some of the most amazing prices. We're pretty much unbeatable for the most part. Staying Alive, also stayingalive.com with 2 I's. Pretty soon we're building a new website that's with 2 E's at the end. Instead of 2 I's, it's 1 I and 2 E's, standing for energy enhancement. That should be launching as early as Wednesday, Thursday next week as well. A lot of moving parts, folks. I got my fingers in a lot of pots these days. I need to do a quantum summit like I need a hole in the head, okay? I'm a busy guy. I got so many things going on between podcasting and dealing with editors and dealing with marketing for Staying Alive. And I really have no time, but that's why I say this will be the last one. Hopefully it is going to be a celebration, because I would hate to find out that they finagle the bagel with the contest, with the presidential contest, and the other one gets in, and then we're back to, I'll be moving out of the country probably in less than a year if that happens, but I don't think it will. But anyway, Hydrogen Man is an amazing individual, very much into nutrition and hydrogen. He understands water better than anybody I've ever met in my life. And he knows how to cross over to the other side by going into meditation. I want to hear about this. Brother, welcome to the show.
Yeah, really good to see you, my brother. I'm glad we connected again.
Yes, absolutely. Where would you like to start? Would you like to start with the hydrogen and the water, or do you want to start how the meditation? It's up to you, brother.
You know, they all play a role, actually, because that's ultimately what I'm discovering, is that there is actually a connection between water, hydrogen, spirituality, the other side, and even what we call God. And before I begin, I'm not going to give any medical advice. I'm not going to make any medical claims, and I'm not making any claims for or against any product or products. Everything I'm saying are my opinions. But it was interesting, actually. Just recently got contacted by a lab. This guy who runs a lab actually saw me on a show, and he said, everybody who probably watched the show, he said, probably didn't see what I saw. That's what he was telling me. He said, when you talked about water, everything you said I knew was correct, because I run a lab that specializes in water. And so he actually got the device that I use for hydrogen, because he said, if you know that much about water, when it comes to hydrogen, I really took your advice. And so he got the device that I use. And the reason he got it was because he was suffering from some medical problems himself. And his brother, this really bad skin condition that no medical doctor could fix. And then I believe he had some other friend or family member that had some other issue. And so I just recently got to talk to him, because he started running some lab tests. And I can't go into a lot of details right now. But first of all, his brother's skin issue is totally gone. He took before and after pictures, which is pretty amazing. I just actually had a medical clinic today send me some before and after pictures of somebody else with a skin condition. And then, of course, his other family members, everybody's issues basically went away, including his own. And he contacted me because he did these lab tests. And I always warn people, and I'm just saying this because a lot of people who are learning about hydrogen, be very, very cautious out there, because I've been saying, I'm probably the first person and the only person right now saying that, in my opinion, there's types of hydrogen that you can make that actually can be bad for you. And usually I stay away from things like Brown's gas or hydrogen pills, or even, there's a famous person who's been talking about these like little hydrogen bottles. I'm not a fan of these for good reason. And so stay tuned, because in the future, I'm going to be showcasing some actual proof, some actual lab data, because I'm a big data guy. I mean, you have to have proof.
Right.
And,
Absolutely.
and because otherwise, if you go off of everybody's opinions, there's so many out there and you never really know what to believe. So let's just share with people real quick. I will share this. Water right now, in my opinion, is very, very dangerous for people's health. Like if you just go and try to drink tap water anywhere in America, you're not going to be doing yourself any favors. I've seen the lab tests. So for people out there who say, I want clean water, what do I got to do? Because every single water filter out there, they're not all created equal, and they don't all filter everything out of water. And this has a lot to do with the purification of the pineal gland and these meditative states. It's one of the reasons, I'm here in Japan right now. This is why I came to Japan, actually, to learn a lot about this and to also put these meditative practices into actual, put them to work, actually do the work, which there is a lot of work to be done. But if you want to find the best way to do it, there is a really good website, and it's not even that expensive. It's called mypurewater.com. So that's the website that has the equipment that I personally use. But that equipment is just to clean water. And if people want the discount code, they can use, there's a bunch of them, but if they want the one that I have, it's Uprising 144K. But it's what's called carbon distillation, Mel. So your average water filter is like a carbon filter or a reverse osmosis filter. And they're okay, there's nothing wrong with them, but they will clean everything. And I think there's something very sinister going on right now in the world. And I do think they're putting things in our water. And the only way to clean everything out of water, from viruses, bacteria, parasites, and then on top of it all the fluoride and heavy metals and just all the garbage in water, is through this process of carbon distillation. And nature actually does it like that. So just for people who understand, I observe nature a great deal because, in my opinion, as the ancient scriptures say, God created the heavens and the earth. So he created the earth. And that's why nature and the earth is so amazing. And the earth actually, that's how it cleans water. It starts with hydrogen, it starts with the sun, which is made of almost entirely hydrogen, and helium, which is just another form of hydrogen. And it hits the ocean, and the steam rises, and that uprising, that ascension, and this is a spiritual component of water. There's huge spiritual components of water, and even words that even people like Jesus said in scripture, even the Bible says things like, and the voice of God is like the sound of water. So there's so many components in living water. And then of course, I just think that it's one of the greatest healers there is water. No matter what you believe, no matter what diet you like, or no matter which supplement you like, no matter what, you always need, in my opinion, the cleanest water. And that's really important.
mypurewater.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
And and you can choose the cheapest machine they have. The cheapest machine they have with the discount code is like $500. It comes down to like 500 and something bucks. But the important part is that you're getting literally the cleanest water known to man.
What's the most expensive machine they have?
I think they're like $2,000 to $3,000, and they all make the same quality of water. The whole difference is that the machines either make the water at different speeds or different amounts of water. Like they're really expensive ones, they're big ones that are like $2,000 or $3,000. They make I think 10 or 15 gallons at a time. They have a giant holding tank.
So that would be for restaurants or something like that, right?
Oh yeah, or even people who just have a lot of people in their house, who they just want something that's
What do you think of the concept of pulling water out of the atmosphere and filtering it through air filtration and filters, etc., and drinking that water, the atmospheric water?
So let's go into the data, right? Because I know all about this. So that is a really good way of making water. Mm-hmm. It can be extremely clean, but the only problem is that it depends on how clean the air is.
Correct.
So
you have to have have to have a great air filtration system in order to clean the air so that the water is clean, right? Or several filtration systems for the air.
Yeah, and that's probably the only tricky part. And those are usually much more expensive, usually. And when they have problems, I know somebody who had one, and when it broke, it was so expensive to repair it, they just were like, forget it. Where as a carbon distiller, you could pretty much do the same thing, like I said, for $500 and something. Now, granted, the ones that I recommend, because I only recommend what I use.
Sure.
And the ones that I recommend are American made, higher quality components. And man, I've had such good luck with the products I've gotten from them that they just run and run and run. Versus like a kind of a cheaper, you get a cheaper Chinese one, not as good, not lab tested, but they're not bad. You know, it's not like they're horrible. So,
Sure. And how are you affiliated with mypurewater.com? Are you like part owners? Are you like an affiliate?
no, I just have an affiliate code. I mean, I think they give me, I think 20 or 30 bucks for a machine. Like, so it's not, I'm not doing it about the money.
Right.
Whenever I get a product that I really like, I share it with people, and I don't promote like 100 different products. I don't do a lot of that because my health protocols for people who didn't know or don't know, I used to be super sick. Like I'm not even supposed to be alive right now. I had so many medical problems, it was pretty unreal, and I couldn't even. So that was a really big problem too, being in so much pain and not being able to walk. And so I discovered a very simple way of improving your life and improving your health. And then my protocols ended up working so good, literally better than I would have ever expected, that now I've literally had doctors. I just had a medical center call me today, and they ask me for advice all the time because they've seen my protocols work on their patients. And I've even had doctors, like I've had oncologists from Harvard, by the way, contact me because they've seen what I've done with some of their patients. And I remember one time one of the doctors was like, I don't know how you're achieving this. Should be impossible. How did you learn to do this? And I remember this story was a lady. She told her doctor, she's like, well, there's this guy on YouTube. And he's like, no way, there's no way that there's somebody on YouTube showing how to do something like this. And that's how I kind of started gaining a reputation. And a lot of doctors have been contacting me throughout the years. And of course, I put my own practices and techniques, I put them into practice. And then I do my own stuff, like I'll measure my own blood. Well, we were talking off camera about measuring the gases that come out of your mouth.
Right.
All sorts of different stuff like that. And the last time I got blood work, not long ago, I worked in the medical field, for people who don't know. I worked in the medical field for like 2 decades. And I had this particular doctor call me. If you work in the medical field, you know that when you get a call from a doctor for like blood work, for example, that's not something you want. They only call you with bad news. When there's good news, they don't call you. That's kind of the rule of thumb in the world of medicine. So when this doctor called me about my blood work, I got really worried. And she's like, I've been doing this for decades. She said, I've been looking at blood work for decades. And I was all worried. I'm like, tell me, what did you find? What's going on? What am I doing wrong? She said, no, the reason I'm calling you is because in all the years I've done this, I have never seen blood work look as good as yours. Never in my life. She goes, I actually want to know what you're doing. Because if it's something that I can apply to my life, and then also my daughter, she brought up her daughter because her daughter has medical issues, medical problems that the mother, who's a doctor, can't figure out.
Right.
And so, I get all these people contact me all the time. I mean, I've had so many testimonials on my YouTube channel, people with dementia, Alzheimer's, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, type 1 and type 2, by the way, people with eye conditions, macular degeneration. I mean, on and on I go, heart conditions. I mean, I had a heart condition that they told me I needed open heart surgery for. I never got the surgery. I was able to repair it, fix it with the hydrogen and my techniques and the clean water. And the Japanese do the best hydrogen. It's another reason that I'm here in Japan. And I'm also practicing the ultimate grounding techniques. So you know about grounding, right? You've heard about it.
Absolutely.
There is different ways to ground, and there's better ways than others. I know everybody's married to their ideas. I'm never married to my ideas. I'm a data guy. And so ultimately, I found better ways and interesting ways to do grounding. One of them, it does appear that hydrogen actually helps ground you, which is interesting. And the other one is hot springs, so water. When you put your body in a body of water, it's also very grounding.
Interesting.
And Japan is like famous. I've been posting these videos. For anybody who wants to go watch the videos, they're free. I got them on YouTube. It's the name of the channel.
What's your channel name?
Yeah, Uprising 144K.
Uprising 144K. We'll leave the link down below. What made you move to Japan out of all places? I know you like maybe you like sushi, maybe you like Japanese women. I have no idea. What was the motivating factor that said, okay, I'm going to go to Japan?
It was actually something more spiritual in general, and the things that I would need in order to be able to have more contact with the other side. because we were talking about it a little bit. I discovered a technique and a way to open the door to the other side. In fact, I started discovering a lot of doors. And the other side is filled with so many answers to questions that I've longed for myself for a very long time. I get really frustrated when I read, like, this was a long time ago, but reading spirituality books, watching movies about, spirituality and talking to gurus. And I just got frustrated because I feel like they would only lead me so far, and I always felt thirsty for more. And that was really frustrating for me. And I did have my own quote unquote NDE experience also, because that was part of the issue with my heart and my heart stopping and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And those really had a huge impact on me. And then I stumbled upon it by accident. I stumbled upon these techniques trying to really repair my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I stumbled upon some techniques on how to go to the other side, because I started going over there. And it's a really long story because there's a lot over there. It reminds me of a verse in ancient scripture that says, in the Father's house are many doors, many rooms, many mansions. And it's true. There's massive amount of stuff.
But when you cross over to the other side, are you on another planet? Are you going to heaven? Are you going to another dimension? Are you actually landing? Are you seeing clear? What, like right now, I can see, I'm in a room. I can see everything around my room clearly. Do you see clearly, or is it sort of come in fuzzy? Because I do a lot of astral surfing myself, and I've landed on planets where I could see faces and stuff, but the landscape doesn't come in as clear as I would like it to. For example, this has happened twice to me where I can see faces very, very clear. I don't know who these people are. I have no idea what dimension or what planet they're on. I've been on planets where I see everybody kissing, everybody's making out. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's pretty freaking wild. And I'm not sleeping. I'm literally conscious. I just close my eyes within 30, 40, 50 seconds. I'm literally in transition. It's like sometimes you'll see something in the corner of your eye on this side and you just try to follow it and it leads you to something. Sometimes you'll see it here and you'll follow it and it leads you to something else. It's pretty freaking wild. My pineal gland is very clear. Obviously, I haven't used Colgate toothpaste in 39 years. So it must have something to do with it. But by the way, I do want to tell you that I did buy a state-of-the-art filtration system. Maybe not from your guy, but I did buy it on Amazon. It's like 9-stage filtration. It goes through all these different cartridges and stuff. My water tastes pretty darn pure. I think I'm drinking like melted glacier water or something. It's really delicious.
Yeah, if it's a 9-stage, it's most likely a reverse osmosis type system.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, I have all my videos numbered. Video 388, I show the data as far as, and the only downside, this is what they don't tell you. I am always things that nobody will tell you, or, because I'm all about the truth. Let's talk a little bit about water filtration.
Mm-hmm.
What happens, let's say they do a lab test. And your type of filters, that's why they have all these stages, they're what's called a porous filter. So it's a filter with a ton of little tiny holes. They're like pores. So the water goes through there and is filtering out, a lot of the garbage, right? That's how it works. So when they present to you a lab test, they'll show you a lab test saying, hey, look, this is how clean your water is after using our water filtration system. So this is how great our stuff is. Go ahead and drink it and it tastes great. What they don't tell you is, porous systems, let's say the average filter, this depends on the company, but let's say they say, oh, this filter filters out 5,000 gallons, right? What they don't tell you is that the quality of your water starts here when your filters are new, but your quality of your water is always going like this. It's always getting worse because
that's why you got to change the filters.
That's right, but here's the problem. If you're supposed to change the filters every 5,000 gallons, the water's going like this. It's constantly getting worse, but you can't just constantly change the filters because that gets very expensive and tedious. And that's why you calculate a certain amount of gallons. So let's say that after 1,000 gallons, you were to get a lab test, I promise you, the results will come out differently. And then 2,000 gallons, they'll come out differently. But the method that I use and suggest, carbon distillation, the quality of the water comes out like this every time. It's the same every single time. Why? Because you're using the power of God, the power of nature, because distillation, there is no filter. You're transforming water to literally vibrate at a different frequency, and it begins to ascend. I mean, that's what it does. Water literally begins this ascension process. That's the process of distillation. Not to say that your filters are not good, by the way. I'm not saying it's not good.
Right.
I'm all about the best. You know,
Yeah, no, I totally, and I've had this filter system for about 4 months. I'm about to change the filters, even though it's supposed to last a lot longer. But I don't, like, you're right. I know that the water, quality, but it still tastes really, really good. I can,
Absolutely.
I would know. So if I go into a restaurant that has filtered water and they haven't changed their filters, I know immediately. I know in a second. I say, hey, you better tell the owners to change their filters. You know what I mean? But let's talk about frequency, because when you talk to the water, you tell the water, I love you. And you tell things that are wonderful, and you put the water under a microscope, the water looks different than if you take the water, say, I hate you. I hate your freaking guts. It's like, and then you put that water under a microscope, you get two different pictures, same water, but you programmed it differently, right? And people think this is, but there's videos that actually prove this on the internet.
Yes, I was skeptical myself, again, data driven, and this actually came from Japan.
Right.
I've actually taken that research to another level now. The world doesn't even know about it yet. I'm going to be sharing more in the future. But what I can tell you, that when you use hydrogen, hydrogen, the origination of the word hydrogen comes from Greek or Latin, actually means that which becomes water. So I've discovered a technique where you can program the hydrogen, and you can literally structure the hydrogen. The Japanese are doing this. It's like completely next level. Like I said, the world doesn't even know about it right now. And this is the kind of stuff to activate that pineal gland even more. So you said something very interesting, and I very much understand what you're talking about. When you said you try to do your astral projection, everything's very fuzzy, everything's very blurry, and that kind of thing. I definitely saw very clearly, and that's part of the process of what I'm trying to actually do more of, because the body is actually truly something sacred, and it is what the ancient scriptures called the temple of God.
Right.
And the purity of your blood really does actually matter. And these things really affect you from your heart. If you have love in your heart, it changes things. If you clean your blood, it changes things. If you have positive thoughts, remember, you were just talking about positive or negative words towards water, and I'm sure you know that even thoughts affect the water. They've shown that.
Absolutely, yes.
Well, we're primarily made of water, so these thoughts also affect you. I mean, the water's your body, and these things really make a huge difference. And even someone like Jesus or Yeshua, or whatever name you want to put on him, he understood a lot of these concepts, and he taught a lot of this stuff, but nobody noticed. That was the weird part. Nobody. And I found a really interesting book. I was really surprised, again, skeptical. It's a book that it was supposed to be from the ancient archives of basically the Vatican, the hidden archives of the Vatican. And what they were ultimately discovering, there was a guy whose father was a translator. It's a long story how this book ultimately got out. A lot of people, poo-poo it, but I took a look at it, and there's all these stories of Jesus in there, like tons of them, stuff that's not in the Bible.
Interesting.
I was really skeptical, like wasn't sure if I should really believe it or not, because Jesus talks in there about how to eat, how to treat the temple, how to heal the body through certain lifestyle. And I was I was skeptical, but I thought, okay, this is interesting. But this is what blew my mind, Mel. At the very end of the book, the last 3 pages, maybe 3 or 4 pages. I think it was 3.5. But anyway, when I've gone to the other side, the things that I've seen, I've never heard anybody else talk about it. So I've heard a lot of people make claims that they've been to the other side and that they talk to God, or I've seen a lot of these claims, and you can probably imagine I'm really skeptical. So yes. I have a hard time believing a lot of these claims that people make. And when I actually experienced it for myself, it was very different than what most people have been saying out there. And I felt really alone in it, in a way. And when I found this book and I'm reading it, when I stumbled the last 3 or 4 pages, Jesus started describing things about the other side, and it blew me away because everything he was describing was everything that I had seen, heard, experienced, and it totally blew my mind.
Can
And
you
that's
describe some of the things that you've seen when you cross onto the other side, please? Try to be as descriptive as possible for the audience. Thank you.
well, there's different stages. So the first stage, you have to go through darkness. So I would equivalent it to the Bible verse where it says, "As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil."
Mhm.
You have to go through the darkness first because the darkness has everything to do with the death. There has to be, I hate to say it, but there has to be a death in order to ascend again. It's kind of like in Buddhism, if you really, really begin to understand both sides of like Buddhism, Christianity, you may think they're different, but when you get closer to the core, they're very much the same. They're very similar. I would probably disagree with that, but they're actually very similar.
Well,
So-
let me ask you that, because I died about 18, 20 years ago for about
Okay.
4.5 minutes. So I
Oh.
went through the valley of the death, whatever you just described, right? I'm not a Bible guy by any stretch. So I already done that. Is that why I'm able to astral surf now? I'm just curious.
I think it plays a role. So I think it does have an effect. You know, like when I went to the other side, it was like 4.5 hours. And when I first had my heart, I had heart problems.
Okay.
You know, so, but unfortunately for me, I caused my own problems. I think we talked about it a little off camera, but I had attempted to take my life, you know, and I had done it unfortunately many times. And the very last time I did it, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of failing. I keep poisoning
You're not very
myself.
successful at killing yourself. You should stop doing it. I mean, seriously.
It was a very hard time in my life, and you know, but this has brought about good information to hopefully we can share with others, and I hope that people
Sure.
are sharing.
And I
You
don't
know,
mean
sure.
I don't mean to make it like I'm making fun of you. I'm like laughing with you, not at you. Okay.
Oh, yeah, and you know, I don't get my butt hurt over all this kind of stuff. I love laughing. You know, it's all good, man. I mean, I'll openly admit, you know, my failures. I'll openly admit stupid things that I've done,
Right.
and I'm totally cool with it. I'm
Sure.
an open, you know. And but yeah, so I took just shy of 1,000 pills in one sitting the last time I tried to take my life. I lined up the Costco bottles and I took them with alcohol, thinking that would just make it that much worse. But apparently that's what actually caused my heart problem. But it did have an effect, just like you're talking about opening up something to the other side. I remember I was found many hours later, ended up in the ER. And I remember when the doctor approached me, he took me in private and just said, "Hey, I'm just curious, did you really take this many pills?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Because I don't believe you." And I was like, "Okay," like I didn't really care whether you believe me or not, but I thought it was weird. He was telling me, but then I got curious and I said, "Why don't you believe me?" He said, "Because that's impossible." He said,
1,000 pills is a lot of pills. What kind of pills did you take, if you don't mind me asking?
I had a ton of different ones. I had like Tylenol and ibuprofen, and I just grabbed some random prescription drugs out of the bathroom. You know, I just lined up as many as I could find. Yeah, I just took as much as I could get in there. And so the doctor I was curious, and I said, "Hey, why do you think it's impossible? What should have happened?" And he said, "Well, it would have totally screwed up your heart." And that's something that I did notice that had happened, where my heart would stop, and of course, you get some chest pain. And that's ultimately what caused the heart problem. I ended up having a major heart condition for a long time, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept thinking, someday it'll kill me and they'll be fine. But what's funny about the day, this is the whole reason I was bringing it up. When I was alone in the hospital bed, they finally, left me alone in a room. And when I was alone, there were like these beings of light. And I was trying to ignore them, actually. But they were talking in a very weird way. They were all talking in unison with one voice. And they kept repeating something, and they kept kind of giving me visions. And they kept saying, "You'll never do it again. You'll never do it again. You'll never do it again." And I would have like these visions of the future and getting older. And I never thought I would see 18 or 20 years old. Now I'm, nudging 50. And I never thought I would make it, honestly.
Right. Right.
And doctors, of course, told me, with this type of heart condition, you're not going to make 10 years because it's a long story. But basically, they said I needed open heart surgery. And I started having, as you know, a lot of medical problems. And then I discovered this Japanese hydrogen, which is different. You should see the stuff they're doing, Mel. It's unbelievable. If people want to check it out, the official site is called holyhydrogen.com. And one of the people, now this reminds me, one of the people saw me on your show before, by the way. One of the guys who had basically got rid of his medical problems. He said he went and checked out the hydrogen stuff. And then, so that's actually, now I'm remembering, that's why I reached out to you.
Right.
Because I was like, reach out to Mel again. We got to, hang out and talk again. Because our show actually touched somebody's life and changed his life. And he was sick and he couldn't work because he was sick. And this totally took care of him. And he's back to work again. And so he was really grateful for that.
Yeah.
And
could you hold on for a second? I got a very demanding Costa Rican canine that wants to go out, and I got to let him out. I'll be right back. Give me a second, all right? Thanks. All right.
Yep.
Come on, Max. Come on, Max. Let's go.
First.
Yeah. But anyway, so let me ask you a question. How long you been living in Japan for now?
It's been just about half a year.
Okay.
And, one of the really big special things, they have a few special things though. One of them I find ironic because in that book where Jesus talks about how to live, he specifically says to eat locally.
Right.
And I mean, I know when I lived in the US, it was like, I'd go to the store and I'd buy, I don't know, apples.
The food here is poison, bro. The food in America is poison. You go to the local supermarket, it's poison. You go to the local restaurants, it's poison because profit takes precedence over everything. So they're not going to buy the most organic stuff. They're going to buy the cheapest shit because it's all about money. It's all about making profit. So they're selling you shit that's got glyphosates and Roundup. And I was at a Purium convention not too long ago, a few months back, and there's a gentleman on stage talking that the government has gotten the green light to accelerate the killing machine because with the safe and effective, they weren't able to do it fast enough. You know what I'm talking about, right? Without making any gestures. The safe and effective bullshit story from Fauci. So exactly. So that didn't work. So they accelerated the killing machine by allowing more chemicals to be sprayed. So the level of toxicity that we have on our fruits and vegetables here in the United States is 100 times greater than that of Europe. It's crazy.
Yeah. By the way, I totally understand, and I very much agree with you. And even when I would buy organic food over there, it would be like, this is from Ecuador, this is from Mexico. Like, food was from all over the world in this organic,
Bro,
shop.
they pee on your fucking fruits and vegetables in Mexico. They pee on your fruit. They pee on your watermelons. They pee on all that shit, and then they send it over to you. I wish I was making this stuff up. Please look it up. You know what I mean? But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't believe you at all. I totally get it, and that's why I wash it real good, of course.
Yeah.
We do the best we can. That's my big motto. We do the best we can.
Yeah.
And why, to be quite honest with you, have a device that can clean water, because water is something that is really not that expensive, is like so awesome because you can clean your water through distillation, to perfect no matter where you're at.
Right.
One of the things, so I thought it was interesting that a lot of what the Japanese do is actually very similar to what these ancient Jesus teachings are. I find it so crazy that they're so similar, because when I go shopping in Japan, it's so wild, dude. The packages, they show you where the food comes from, first of all. But I started noticing a pattern. All the food comes from the same area. In Japan, they're really big culturally, so I'm learning a lot by being there. They have this belief by their country. It's just it's not a religious thing. It's just their own belief, and they live by it. That you should only eat locally.
Right.
So all farmers only sell to local stores, and that's all you buy is always from local sources. And of course, the way I've been learning about Japanese farming techniques. Oh Lordy, these guys are next level. They're unbelievable farmers, and the way they treat the soil. And because of the spiritual journey, in order to have clear sight when you do go to the other side, in order to be able to have, a more profound experience and learn more, basically, because there's a lot of things to learn, you really need to treat your body better. It really is a huge part of this whole journey. But also, like, not to bring too much Bible stuff up, but like, do you ever remember the conversation between Jesus and Nicodemus?
No.
It's quite possibly one of the most important verses in all of the Bible. But basically, Nicodemus and Jesus spoke at nighttime. That's what the scripture says. And it's really important. A lot of people may not like this, but this is what happened. I'm a facts guy. I'm all about the truth. And that's all I want, is always the truth. And when they spoke in not so many words, Nicodemus basically said, hey, Jesus, what's the answer? What's the truth? What's the way to God? How do you do it? It's a little ironic because, Jesus didn't come out and say, look, all you got to do is accept him as your Lord and Savior and give me 10%. Like, that's not what he said, right?
Yeah.
He said, you must be born again. Now, a lot of people didn't understand what that meant, and including Nicodemus. And he was like supposed to be some super high priest, really, really smart.
Right.
And he comes back and says, well, Jesus, how am I supposed to go back into my mother's womb and be born again? Right? Now, this is the reason I'm bringing this up, Mel, because in this other book where there's all these stories about Jesus, he talks about something very interesting. He talks a lot about the mother, but the mother earth. Because if you look at the scriptures specifically say that we were born of the earth. Because it says we were risen of the earth, and then God took like water, made us into clay, and blew life into us, right? This is the Bible. And so we were born of the earth. So when he's talking about being born again, I think that just based on a lot of these readings and even my own experiences, there's this whole thing about earth that has a lot to do with us. And I personally think that's why evil is trying to poison the food, trying to poison the earth, because it actually poisons our connection to the other side, where our Father, quote unquote, is like God, if you want to call him that. Because that's the world of the heavens, that's the world of the spirit. Over here is the world of the flesh, the world of, quote unquote, the ego. Right. And you actually merge both those worlds together. That's ultimately the goal, because and I've experienced it more than once. And it is the most beautiful thing, because you've never felt such a sense of being full. Like, you don't feel empty. You don't feel like something's missing in your life. You don't have to chase the dragon, or, you see what I'm saying? And the way that you go back into your mother's womb is so interesting, because here's where science meets science fiction. Hot springs. So in Japan, the hot springs are like big, super famous, popular. People love them. Are you aware of this?
Interesting. We used to have hot springs in Costa Rica when we lived there. I live back in the States now. I'm in Merritt Island. But we used to go to San Carlo, which is where they have the hot springs near Lake Arenal, quite often. We used to do at least 3-4 times a year. And one thing I can tell you is, when you come out of the hot springs, your skin feels like a brand new baby's ass. It's like really smooth. It's wild. But we used to sit in there for like literally, 8 hours.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. So that's why I'm living here too. Not just the food, but the springs. Like, I literally go to the hot springs 2 to 3 times a day.
Really?
So, yeah. And the way that they do it in Japan is so different. Go watch one of my videos. I've been posting some videos of me in Japan just to show people what springs looks like. But brother, the way they treat the water, they literally build structures, the water, and they have lab tests. So they take lab tests and they tell you what the waters are good for, because there's so many different types of hot springs that have different colors,
different temperatures. And same thing in Costa Rica. The water comes from the volcano. The hot springs water comes directly from the volcanoes. It's unbelievable stuff.
And again, it's the power of nature. The power of nature is the greatest thing, especially for healing also.
Right.
I
gotta ask you, bro. I gotta ask you, how the hell do you communicate out there? I mean, did you learn how to speak Japanese already in 6 months?
ちょっと日本語してる。
Konnichiwa. That's all I have to say is konnichiwa, which is how are you? And I know how to count. I know how to count in Japanese too.
I mean, it's not like super good, but I can communicate for sure.
Okay.
And you know, I used to live here before.
Okay.
I've lived in Japan off and on throughout the years, and that's why I discovered all these things about how, honestly, brother, the Japanese people are like pretty amazing people.
They truly are.
Man, some of the things they do, you just can't even understand or believe. They're like they really are like
Next
a different.
level.
Yeah, they really are next level, and that's why I learned they're the ones who really discovered the things about hydrogen.
Yeah.
And the positive effects on the human body.
Asian people in general, bro, are different breed than us. They're all next level. The Japanese in a different way. The Chinese people are good people. Their government sucks. Their government is evil and corrupt, yes, but the Chinese people are good people. The Malaysian people. I lived in Malaysia for a few months. I know. I can tell you that the Filipinos. I lived in the Philippines for almost 3 months with my wife. The last time we went, about 6 years ago. We're planning on going again after this New World Order gets out of our balls. Okay, we want to go back and chill out for another 3 months or so, and go visit some of the places that we didn't visit the first time. But I moved back here to the States because I started a frequency energy technology a healing center with Dr. Sandra Rose Michaels, scalar wave biophotonic. And if you know anything about biophotons, when you're in that room, you're breathing the most oxygenated air, the most pristine air you could possibly think of, because the air is restructured. Okay, so people like my friend Jeff, who bought a bunch of silver from me, who lives right down the road here in Melbourne, and Jeff said, there's something different about the air in here. I said, yeah, you're breathing in biophotons, and people are experiencing incredible healing. I mean, we're talking people that are coming in. Obviously, the machines are not medical devices. The machines are not healing devices. The machines are not going to heal you. It is your own body that understands the frequency. It understands the biophotons, and it is your body that is actually. We had a lady, Rhonda, with stage 4 lymphoma. Stage 4. They had to carry her to the bathroom. She couldn't walk on her own. A week and a half later, she's walking on her own. 2 weeks later, I asked her, I said, Rhonda, are you still stage 4? She says, Mel, I don't think that I'm even stage 2, right? This is without her going to the doctor. She calls me 2 months later after being in the system, right? She was in the system every day, okay? I had allowed 2 people to stay with her free of charge and had to give her an incredible price reduction. She couldn't afford much. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna allow somebody to die because of something called money? That's not who I am, right? So we allowed her to, get healed. She calls me 2 months later. She said, Mel, my doctor, my oncologist says I am completely in remission. 0. Okay. I had a lady who's down in Vero Beach. She's a hairdresser. Another one. Can't afford a lot, but she does hair. So my wife said, I'll go down there, do a facial and do a foot massage and do my hair, and we'll exchange it for a package, and voila. She did 2 overnights. She came back and did 4 hours. She called Amber 2.5 weeks ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Stage 3. She said, the doctor said, what are you doing? Whatever you're doing. He goes, don't stop. He goes, you're practically in remission. 2 overnights and 4 hours. Are you kidding me?
That's really great, dude.
Yeah.
And they're not, these people weren't getting conventional treatment on top of it, or were they also?
No, just they're most of the people that come to us are mostly holistic. They don't believe in traditional Western medicine and radiation and chemo and all that stuff. They don't believe in that. They believe in this stuff. This is the kind of stuff that was, what's his name? Nikolai Tesla technology that, they confiscated.
Yeah. I mean, I know about it. They actually have some of that in Japan, but it'd be really good if you kept track of whether it's imaging or what other type of treatments, if any, or if it's just that and amounts of time and types of cancer. I mean, that would be really good. I already work with different medical centers that are doing that. They're starting to track. Because
right now I'm interviewing a bunch of, I don't want to make this about me. I won't get right back to you in a second. But right now I'm interviewing a bunch of marketing companies because it's like, hey, I have machines that allow your body to cure itself from every disease known to mankind. We got thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of testimonials. if we have, I said, if I can make you believe that I have what I say I have, and I could prove it to you, because we have thousands of testimonials worldwide, and there's 700 locations worldwide, right? I said, shouldn't you want to market? If you're a real marketing person, shouldn't you want to market with me? And maybe I'll do some kind of a, performance-based model where you send me customers, I'll give you money. Because if you want my money, I give you my money, and then what happens? You take off my money and you don't show me nothing. You got my money and I got nothing, right?
Yeah.
If you're a real marketing person and you really know how to, get around social media, right? Let's get the message out to the world. Let's start building the search engines. Let's start building social media and the Instagrams and the Facebooks, the YouTubes, whatever. And let's get a bunch of people over a period of 5, 6, 7 months, and then let's sit down and we'll chop it up, right? But everybody's very interested in taking your money. Oh no, I got to run a business. I got expenses. Well, maybe you're not a marketing person. You know what I mean? Because these people, as soon as, and I've done this many, many times. Sometimes I chase the people and I've gotten my money back. Sometimes not. But it's very frustrating dealing with marketing people, because it's like, and I talk to some of these people and they agree with me. They're just looking for another victim. As soon as they're done with me, they're looking for somebody else to victimize. I'm not interested in being victimized. I'm from Missouri. Sometimes you got to show me, right?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And they should just market and have
If you're a marketing person, show me what you got, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, look, my business is calibrated to make $1 million a month without breaking a sweat. If I could keep those chairs, not even full, semi-full, that's $1 million a month business. If you're a marketing guy and I'm paying you $2,000 a month, for example, or $3,000 a month, or $5,000 a month to keep my chairs full, but let's say you do it on the come, you'll do it on a performance basis, and I pay you 5% of $1 million is $50,000. What would you rather have, 5,000? Or maybe you're not really a marketing guy. You just want my 5,000 for 2 or 3 months, and then I realize you can't do your job, and then you're gone, right? You see what I'm saying? But I want guarantees. What I want.
I totally get it. Like you're definitely. I definitely understand. And hopefully that will all work out. And it is difficult for a lot of people, because depending on locations and having to go to that location, and
if you see the testimonials that came through our center directly, Greg, it's unbelievable. I had a guy run right down the middle aisle and turn around and said to me and my wife, I couldn't do that 2 weeks ago. My diabetes is in check. My fibromyalgia is in check.
I'm a big, this is all great. If people are getting great changes, that's always positive. But remember, I'm a very skeptical guy, and I need data. It's like when I say data, like I need, for example, see blood glucose numbers or blood pressure numbers, or tumor trunk, or because I have seen a lot of things throughout. Remember, I used to be really sick, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen things where there's so many testimonials, and I would chase them down. Man, I wasted literally all my money always chasing down something. And that's why I became what I became, as far as very data driven, what really works. And I mean, because just recently, I'll tell you right now, there's a product out there. I'm going to let it remain nameless. All I'll say is that it's a Brown's gas product. They claim it's a hydrogen product, Brown's gas product. Thousands of testimonials, by the way, how amazing it is. I saw a lab report on this thing. It's horrible. It's actually like,
if it's sold through a multi-level marketing chain, a lot of multi-level marketing people, I hate to say it, okay, unless you were dealing with Purium, which is a great product, but a lot of multi-level marketing people embellish the results because they have to make money, right?
Right. That's a
problem.
Yeah, or the placebo effect too is powerful.
Yes.
We know. So and I'm not denying and saying that this is not happening. If it is, that is super awesome, and the world needs to know.
Well, if you go to my Telegram channel called Miracles in Cape Canaveral, there are literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of testimonials right on my Telegram channel. I got 800 people that follow us on that channel.
So, like, let me ask you, for example, like, do you have any issues like high blood pressure or diabetes?
I have zero issues. I'm one of the most healthiest guys on planet Earth.
Oh, okay, so you're very, very fortunate. And then you use, I assume, the technology regularly too, right?
I try to get there as much as I can, but most of the time I'm home because I'm doing podcasting and I'm dealing with promoters, and I'm dealing with people building me a website, a page on my website, so I can have my little area where I could do uncensored videos. I'm doing that. I'm going to start that here real soon. I'm putting together contests so that my channels can blow up, but I got to time it just right. Wait for the transition of the power of the guards to switch over to Donald Trump, so that my channels don't get shut down. There's so many moving parts, bro. It's not easy being me. Believe me, I drive myself crazy.
No, I very much believe you. I know that you're always busy, and it's amazing.
I'm a mover and shaker, brother.
Yeah, and I had to do the opposite. I had to go into a very peaceful, quiet life, because that's how you actually can open the door to the other side, and that's where the real knowledge is at. I mean, we're talking even knowledge of, this is kind of a wild statement here, but even information about how the pyramids were built, function of the pyramids. And I'm thinking, for me, it was very odd, because I wasn't even thinking about the pyramids, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I wasn't even really big on that kind of stuff. And there's just so much information over there that I know will be very powerful for mankind. But in the end, my goal is, I really would like people to be able to, for them to be able to go to the other side on their own. So you don't have to have somebody tell you about it. You can experience it for yourself. And I think that that's obviously way better, but it does require work. It's not just easy. And there's
I follow guys like David Wilcott, which is, he's into the pyramids and UFO stuff, and he's amazing. One of the great teachers of our era, for sure.
And I'm not trying to put any of those guys down, because there's tons of David Wilcocks out there that I've seen also, but none of them have described neither the techniques or even what's actually on the other side. I mean, I've been there. I've actually seen this stuff. And I'm still haven't seen, and most of these people, when you're constantly doing, movies or videos or working or this or that, you have no peace. And that's actually part of the technique. In fact, again, not to bring Jesus back up again, but he actually showed us that technique. It's just, again, nobody noticed. And did you ever notice, somebody got a kick out of this, did you ever notice that there is no place really in scripture where Jesus was ever saying, "May God be with you"? Which is a very common statement in the Catholic Church. But what he did was, "Peace be with you." And the reason that he said, "Peace be with you," not that anybody caught on, but because that's actually the way to, quote unquote, communicating with God. Because through peace, there is a door that is open in the stillness, which the Japanese understand as Zen. And these quietness and the stillness and the magic of peace actually is what ultimately helps you get over there. And it's very hard to do that when you're a very, very busy lifestyle. You're a little hamster on a little hamster wheel. And honestly, that's another reason I came to Japan, is to get away from all that stuff.
The rat race.
Absolutely, brother. Yeah, I mean, so that's why
day I'll join you. But I love the thrill of the chase. I love chasing my prey. I love cornering my. It's like, to me, it's a challenge. It's like, okay, I love sales. I love the art of entrepreneurship. I'm pretty darn good at it. I've never really believed in, high school or college, or I can't even relate to some of these professors, because they're on a different, playing field than where I'm at. They don't, if they knew anything about anything, they would be an entrepreneur. They would make a lot more money being an entrepreneur, but not everybody could be an entrepreneur. It's an art form, and it's not for everybody. That's a fact. I happen to enjoy it. I happen to have a knack for it. I got the gift of gab. I love the art of persuasion. Some of my favorite movies, for example, is like Boiler Room, is one of them, and the other one is obviously The Wolf of Wall Street. I've watched that movie 18,000 times, literally. Yeah. I'm probably going to go watch it again tonight. I love the when he gets on the phone, he starts sales pitching. That's who I am. You know what I mean? So when I see that, it's like, oh yeah, it's like, it gets your blood going, right?
And I understand the thrill of the chase. I mean, back in the day, maybe you don't know this about me either, but I was really into racing cars. So I was basically a race car driver, and I had even had a thing with Honda. Actually, they took a look at me, and I was offered, to be able to have a position with them. And so I was going to do that because I loved the speed. I love cars. You love the excitement of it all. But the thing is that in time, especially when, like I said, when going to the other side, there's everything that you've ever wanted and looked for is really over there. And that's why it became so important to me. So I understand loving life and wanting to do things here in the chase and building something like building a business or being successful and even like buying things like people want to buy a new car, or people want to buy a new house, all these type of things. And sadly for me, those things just stopped meaning anything to me.
Cars don't get me motivated. I mean, yes, do I like a Lamborghini? Yes, I'm a fan of Lamborghinis. Do I like that other brand that's really super expensive? But the guy's an Italian Argentinian guy.
Honda?
No, I can't think of the name of the brand. $3-4 million cars. It'll probably come to me, huh?
Koenigsegg?
No,
I mean, there's
a few cars, yeah, but no, this particular brand was. This guy used to work for Lamborghini, and when he made a few suggestions, they basically said, "No, that's never going to work." So he went off and started his own brand, very successful. Doesn't make a lot of cars. They're very, very pricey. They're $3 million, $4 million cars. It might come to me, it might not. It doesn't matter. But it's one of them is called the Hyra.
Oh, the Wyra. Yeah, it's from Zonda.
Zonda. There you go. What's the actual brand name? There's a brand name.
Yeah, the brand name is Zonda. They have the Zonda, the Wyra. They have, I can't remember the other Zonda cars they have, but they're by Pagani is probably what you're thinking.
Pagani, there you go. Pagani, there you go. Pagani. Yeah, that's my favorite sports car of all time. The Zonda, there's the Hyra, there's a few of them that are gorgeous. But it's like they're creating all these cars, and meantime we have all the technology to be able to fly. I should be able to come there and hang out with you in 20 minutes, be in Japan, and leave from here from my garage, not have to go to the airport and take my belt off and all that nonsense, right? And get into something that resembles a bird that's made out of metal that travels at 600 miles an hour. And when I get there, I'm dead tired. I could be there in 20 minutes. We can have some sushi and I can fly right back and we're done, right? So that technology is going to come under a leadership that is, I believe, going to be Trump and what comes after Trump. They don't want that. They don't want life extension technology. We're going to have technology that you and I will be able to live thousands of years, not 1,000, but thousands. Okay.
Yeah.
So
very much.
Immortality is in the cards. It's within reach. Once we get our heads out of our ass.
I know. I mean, I've already seen. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I know that stuff's coming, but there is also, by the way, a technology that. This is actually one of the reasons I really wanted to connect to Joe Rogan, because he knows this guy. There was a guy on a show. And the guy he has a theory, but he doesn't know how to do it. And I just need the proper people and the proper funding. But there is a way to use technology to actually go to the other side much easier. So instead of doing a lot of the work, it could be technically a lot easier through technology. Then I'm not kidding you, my brother. Everybody could easily go to the other side, have these, quote unquote, great experiences, but also gather knowledge. And like I said, the kind of knowledge that is so unbelievable, like the kind of technology that built the pyramids. And of course, the technology or the answer to living longer, because there's different ways that you can approach it. And some of the ways are not necessarily very good for you, by the way.
Exactly.
And then there's other ones that are the right way to do it. And you can achieve both. Like, even if I were to give you an example, I'll give you an example because people always ask me about different things. And one of them's like, hey, how can I increase testosterone, right? Everybody wants to increase testosterone these days, right? So what people don't understand is when you give yourself, for example, like TRT or, testosterone replacement therapy, or some people would call even anabolic steroids, stuff like this. Although there's certain benefits to that and people feel really, really great, there's also appears to be some detriment to it too. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. But one of the things they observe is that it accelerates aging.
Give me 1 second. I got to get the furry boys back in.
Yeah, go.
Come on, boys. Come on, let's go. Come on, Crispy. Come on, Max. Crispy. All right, I'm back, man. So anyway, like I was saying, we're moving into a different era of technology that most people, are, the three-dimensional people, the people that are normies, I feel sorry for them because they're not gonna be able to understand or understand what's getting ready to really take place, and the level of technology. I mean, imagine technology right now is moving every 10 years. We're moving 100 years ahead, and that's what them holding us back, right?
Yeah.
Imagine
Yeah.
if they weren't holding us back. Imagine if they allow us to have the technology that they're hiding in Wright-Patterson, in S4, and that other installation over there in Utah, which is bigger than both of them. Okay, military installations. They got thousands. Now you got guys like Patrick Bet-David saying, "Hey, we want to know what's in those. What 6,000 patents are you guys hiding? I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a capitalist. I want to know what these patents are. I want to be able to make some money on it." Right?
Yeah, no, just so you know, everything you're telling me, I mean, I had visions of it a long time ago. So I know where we're at. Right now we're at a very big junction, actually, a very big fork in the road.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go one of two directions. And one of them, in my opinion, will be what we would call the golden age. And the other direction can be a very, very dark place. This is what I was telling you. Go to that other side, you see all this stuff. I mean, time and space is different over there. You can see the future, you can see the past, you can see other lifetimes. There's a lot of stuff over there. And
have you been able to see some of that stuff?
Oh yeah, brother. Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. That's why that place is so intriguing to me. It's so much more exciting than this place, which is why I put so much effort here to get my body and my mind in certain places. This is why I went as far as moving to Japan. I mean, it's not like it's the easiest thing to do to come out here and not necessarily speak the language as well as I speak English. And but it's important. It's important to what it is that I'm trying to do. And absolutely, brother. I've seen a lot of things, and I mean, I've got a library inside of me. I mean, things I've been taught by, very, very wise beings on the other side, because our intelligence here is limited, and a lot of it is limited by time. I mean, the average person doesn't even make it past 100 years. They don't even make it to.
Most people are 70, 75, 80. They're done. They're gone.
Yeah, and that's what I'm telling you, is that on the other side, the beings are beings that are infinite. They've existed for so long. These light beings, they have so much wisdom.
Exactly.
There's a lot
I was gonna say, are they light beings?
Yeah.
They're
Well, there's all sorts.
They're not flesh and bones. They're not matter.
No, they're not flesh and bone. No, and it's just like us. We have, if you look at the ancient writings too, we are spirit and we are flesh. Like, I'll give you one example. You know how the Bible always says that we're made in God's image?
Right.
The scriptures weren't talking about the flesh. The part of us that's made in the image is our spirit. The part of us that lives on even after the flesh returns to the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the part, by the way, that travels to the other side. We have, just so you know, we have this whole other body. We have a light body.
So
and with that,
when you were on the other side, did you see flying machines? What do those flying machines look like? How do they travel? What do they eat? Do they eat maybe once a month? Do they not eat? Do they survive on the energy of the universe, whatever part of the universe they're in? Sunlight. How do they survive?
to be honest, that was kind of the lower end of the totem pole as far as the things that I saw, because once you get over there, first of all, this is going to sound really weird, but there's like, you can call it an angel. I don't know what you would call it, but it's definitely a being of light. And she's guarding the doorway. So there's almost like a door or a gate. And you can't just go there and be allowed in, by the way. So first you have to get there, which requires you to go in through the darkness first. And the darkness can be scary for people. Most people will respond with fear. And if you respond with fear, you'll never reach the door. That's just the first rule of thumb. You cannot be afraid. The fear stops it. Once you reach there, and for me, this angel greets me, she's the one that opens the door. And then she's the one that takes me to different places depending on what it is we're going to go look at.
So she's like your tour guide.
Yeah. Yeah.
And did you say, hey, show me everything? Did you have a conversation with this angel being? Tell us about that.
When you're over there, you're very naked. And when I say naked, I'm not talking about just clothing. I mean, like your heart. So the average human, they don't really know everything that's in their heart. You think that you do, but it's all subconscious and super subconscious. It's like it's buried somewhere. Right. So we just act. We act. We say things. We don't even know where it's coming from a lot of times, but it's coming from somewhere very deep down inside. And when you're on the other side, that part is totally exposed. Like you're totally naked. Like you can't lie over there, by the way. There is no lying over there.
Everybody here lies. On planet Earth, this is the lying planet, the bullshit planet. Everybody lies for a living.
It absolutely is. And I'll tell you right now, it's been taught to me, it's been shown to me. I mean, that rots your soul. People wonder why politicians age so much. I think it's that. They're just the lies that they have to say constantly.
I'm 61. I don't age at all. So that means I tell no lies. I love it. Hey, listen, let's talk a little bit about how did you start to practice these modalities? Did somebody teach you how to do this, or how did you come about being able to get spiritually aligned so that you could cross over to the other side?
Man, it was a lot of things. I mean, the journey, it's funny. For me to explain the whole thing would take a very long time, but if I'm trying to make little simple answers.
Let's have another podcast specifically about that. What do you think?
Yeah, we should probably talk about that some other time. It's really, really involved. Some of the stuff I'm not even at liberty to share yet so here's the thing. I follow the guidance of these much wiser beings. And when I say much, my brother, me, compared to them, not even close. The wisdom that they have, there is no human that walks the earth that has that level of wisdom. It's just not even close.
Correct.
It's like putting Mike Tyson in the ring with a baby. It's just not close. There's just no contest. And the things that they teach me are things that I put into practice. And so I put a lot into practice of what I'm being taught. And there's a lot to learn about how everything works. Right now, everybody's only getting not even really half the picture, but the average person really doesn't understand. And it's really hard usually I don't like to talk about it because people are so married to their ideas and married to their belief systems that I wouldn't say that they're super, super open-minded. And so what I do, to be quite honest, is I usually have kept silent about this for a long time. And I just apply it to myself. I apply it to my own life. And I see how it works. And obviously it's been pretty amazing. And I know that there's more. That's why now I'm realizing they're showing me technology. So here's a wild thing. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a builder. I'm not even really a scientist. Most of the knowledge that I have, even about the scriptures, I'm not a Bible thumper, dude. I don't go and read the Bible. You know why I know this stuff? Is because they're the ones teaching me. they're the ones that teach me all this information. And now I see the direction that really I need to go. And like I said, there's technology that can help open. All I'm going to say for right now, because I'm limited on what I'm allowed to say, there is a way, Mel, to open the door from the other side to this side, and it stay open. It will change the way the humans live. It will change all the belief systems about humans. It's going to be a really good thing. But there does require a certain level of technology to do some of these things. And so I've been shown literally different things that should be created in regards to technology. But of course, what do you need? You need funding, you need engineers, you need people, you need scientists. And so, one of these days, I really want to work with Elon. I think Elon, if I were to explain some of this stuff to him, I think he'll pick it up so quickly. And once he sees it work or experiences it for himself, it just changes everything. No more questions about, where we came from, and no more questions about quote unquote God, and none of those questions.
So
those things.
They have conquered immortality. They have conquered disease on the other side. You live forever, correct? There's no jealousy. There's no cheating. There's no monetary system. None of the nonsense that we have here.
How could you do that if you can't lie over there? You literally, everything's always exposed. Everything is super transparent. There is no lying. And not only that, when you're over there, you vibrate at a certain frequency that has everything to do with your heart, by the way. So if you have corruption or greed, you're not even allowed to go to certain places on the other side. Like there's beings that will not let you win. You're not allowed to be.
How about immortality? So they've conquered immortality, right? How about reincarnation?
Well, reincarnation is definitely real, but you have to remember when you say conquer immortality, you have to remember that we have two parts: the flesh and the spirit. The spirit lives. The spirit is made in
infinite. Well, let's say you get to experience everything there is to experience on the other side, and you say, hey, I want to go back to planet Earth. I mean, hopefully we will bring in a different kind of governance, a different tax system that makes sense. And obviously we're trying to create heaven on earth. I'm not sure if we're going to be successful and to what extent.
That's the door that I'm talking about. The door that links the heavens to earth will create heaven on earth. That's what I'm trying to tell you. In fact, you have to again, you really have to understand that there's two parts. There's the flesh and there's the spirit. And for the flesh to live forever, there's more than one way to achieve that. But some of the ways are not good. In fact, there's a really ancient Bible verse. It's really weird. I mean, a lot of people don't know it, but they can easily look it up. There's a verse that literally says the elites will be hiding in caves. They'll be suffering. It says that it feels like they're being bit by like hundreds or thousands of scorpions or something, but it says that they will be unable to die. And see, this is important because if you apply certain types of technology to live forever, brother, it won't be pleasant. You could literally, it's almost like living in hell forever. And you don't want that.
Not here.
No, here on earth.
Yeah, I don't want to live more than 1,000, 2,000 years old. I just want to make sure that the bad guys never surface. Like I want to be sitting there with a baseball bat and something, pop, just whack them. You know what I mean? We want to get rid of the evil permanently. That there's gonna be at least 1,000 or 2,000 years of peace right here. We're gonna have a monetary system that makes sense. Get rid of all the banksters. Get rid of all the nonsense. Clean up the air. Clean up the dirt. Clean up the waterways, and have healthy food so that we can last for a very, very long time.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of good things to come. Like I said, there's so much beauty over there. There's so much wisdom, and most of the beings over there in the higher realms, wonderful. I mean, just absolutely the most beautiful beings.
This is like you're basically have tapped it to like something like ayahuasca, but you're not doing ayahuasca, but you're getting. Because I've had friends of mine. I was very close to doing it. I was so obsessed about 9 years ago. I was watching literally hours and hours of ayahuasca videos.
By the way, I've done ayahuasca.
Okay, so
I mean, I've done a ton of stuff. I've done a lot of different substances.
There's another one called DMT. Are you familiar with DMT?
I've done it. Yes.
Okay, DMT. Yeah. One of my Jewish friends, his name is Ira. I don't know why they named him after a tax shelter, but his name is Ira. And he said he went over to the other side, did DMT, and I met him at a. I was investigating a group called the Raelians, which I don't like Rael. Okay, I think he's a fraud. He lives in Japan, by the way. He's a complete fraud and a pervert. And
there's a lot of those.
There's a few of those, yeah. And it's like a cult. And he was at this thing. It was like a potluck party, and my friend invited me. Hey, the Raelians are having a potluck party. I said, oh, let me go check them out, because I know about Rael. I knew about the structure, the whole thing. I just wanted to go experience it. I'm not fanatical about anything. But this guy I meet, it was very interesting. He said, I did DMT, and it stands for something, and I'm sure you know the acronym for it. What is it?
Dimethyltryptamine, yeah.
There you go. That's the one. And he said he left his body for 4.5 minutes, but he said it seemed like it was an eternity. And when he landed on the other side, from what I understand, somebody told him, who are you? What do you want? Let's make it fast. We don't have a lot of time to waste. Let's go. What do you want to know?
Yeah.
But he said it was so beautiful and it was so peaceful there. He didn't want to come back.
Yeah, and I very much understand, and I've done those types of substances also. And what I'm talking about is very different, because all those things are part of the story, Mel. like I said, there's many rooms, many mansions, many doors, many different
Many
experiences.
dimensions.
Yes, when you reach a certain point, I realized it was just based on experience. I realized that you reach certain places where you're not allowed unless because they get to see your heart,
Oh yeah. There's
and
nothing you could do to pull the wool over their eye. That's a fact.
no, that is absolutely a fact. Yeah, everything is totally. In fact, it's not just that everything's exposed, Mel. When you're totally exposed there, you see things about yourself that you didn't even know were inside of you. So it's like it's on a whole other level of self-knowing and really understanding yourself and the things that you value, don't value, who you really are.
When you cross over, how long do you stay?
Well, I mean, last time when I went 4.5 hours. So
But this 4.5 hours in their linear time, because time and watches is something we created because somebody had to sell a watch. So they created
4.5 hours probably based on our time.
right.
But when it felt like lifetimes. I mean, there's a lot over there, man. I mean, and I didn't even scratch the surface. That's why it intrigued me so much. That's why I'm interested in this world, but I'm interested in bringing good things here. So one of the things that they did is they gave me sight. And when I say I have sight, like the average person probably won't agree with me, but I can see, I've known about the corruption for so long. I could see it so clearly because Spirit has shown me. He's shown it to me.
Yeah.
And so
one more second. I got the second furry guy. Right back. Come on, pain in the butt. Let's go. Come on. Oh, my audience is going to get a kick out of me getting up to let the dogs in and let them out. Crazy.
Oh,
okay. So yeah, listen, this is a very deep conversation. I'm glad I haven't had you back in a long time. I didn't even know that you moved to Japan until Amber said, "Hey, I got you scheduled with Hydrogen Man, and he's living in Japan." I said, "What? What's he doing over there?" So how's the food? How's the culture? How are the people? Are they very warm? Are they very standoffish? Tell us about the Japanese people.
Well, the Japanese just have a whole different type of culture, a total way of being. I'll tell you things that I think are funny because they got some funny stuff, man. Like, for example, if you're out in public, at least where I'm at, people are very reserved, right? People are wearing clothes. Sure. They're not like super crazy mini skirts and showing off all their cleavage, or I'm in an area where it's very like farming town, small town.
What's the area you're in? What's it called?
I'll just say I'm not in Tokyo. Let's put it that way.
Okay. And you in Okinawa?
No. I'm in you wouldn't know these areas, but all I'll just say is that I'm on the northern part of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's nice here. I chose here because they have super amazing hot springs and super good clean food and farming.
Okay.
But funny is that you're so reserved, right? But you go to these hot springs, Mel, and I just find it hilarious. So you go to this area, it's like a locker room, and they have the men's area, the women's area, and you take all your clothes off. The rules are, and Japanese have a lot of rules, and everybody's got to follow. So the rule is, you take off all your clothes before you get ready to enter the hot spring, right? So here,
it's like a nudist camp.
Huh?
Is it a nudist camp?
No, it's not a nudist camp. It's just that's the way it works. It's like public bathing.
So nobody's got any clothes on. Men, women, children, nobody's got clothes on.
Like I said, they have a men's section, and then they have a women's section. So they go to different.
So you're separated. I got it. Okay, I thought it was like all together. I'm like, wow, pretty wild.
No. They actually have some of those too, but mostly.
Okay, I figured that. Okay.
But this is why it's funny because I'll go in there, I'll start taking all my clothes off or whatever and getting ready to go into the hot spring. Now, before I go, all of a sudden, some woman will walk in. And I'm like, I thought this was the men's area, right? And there's all these men in there with me. There's probably, it depends. Sometimes you're alone. Sometimes there's 6 or 8 or 10 men in this locker room. And it's all one big room. And so some woman will walk in and she just starts picking up stuff and cleaning. And I'm like thinking, okay. And none of the guys bat an eye. It's a cultural thing, right? And I'm like, okay, kind of weird, but all right, no big deal. So then I walk into the next stage. They have all these stages, kind of like the other side, ironically. But so then the next place you go to is where you wash. So you don't go into the hot springs until you clean your body. You don't just jump in the hot spring. You go in this area and you wash. Wash yourself, wash your body, get really clean, because the springs are sacred, my brother. So they have these special springs and they are to be kept clean. I mean, this is the whole, the Japanese are obsessively clean.
Yeah.
So I'm in there, showering or whatever. And then you go to the next place and they have a cold spring. So this cold water is coming up from deep within the earth. It is cold and it's running like a waterfall. This water is just constantly coming out from deep within the earth. So this is not tap water, right? And then they test all the waters constantly to make sure that they're always safe and clean. And then you go to the next place, and then that's where the hot springs are. So, I soak, and then they have a sauna, and they have all this stuff. But the reason I find it funny is because you'll literally just get in this room with a bunch of guys, and sometimes some 1 or 3 women will walk in sometimes. It just depends, whenever they feel like it, I guess, to clean. And everybody's just getting naked like no big deal. But yet, if you're somewhere else, you might be with Japanese people and they don't even want to look at you in the eye. It's like, it's so weird, because one side they're just totally like, oh, everybody take your clothes off, it's totally fine. And then other areas they're so reserved. And I find the disparity funny. Sometimes the Japanese are just really kind of weird and funny and interesting like that, And I just thought it was kind of
You're
wild.
almost making me want to come visit you when I come to the Philippines. I might just take a flight to Japan from the Philippines and hang out for like a long weekend.
Yeah, man. I mean, one of my goals at some point here in the near future, it just depends. A lot of it is dictated by what spirit, the light beings want to do ultimately. Because I just want whatever they want. They have so much love and wisdom. I just want to do whatever they want, to be quite honest. Like, we do things here on Earth. But my goal at some point is I want to get a house here or build a house here, and good friends like podcasters like yourself, friends that I've met throughout the years, they can come over here. We can have some nice meals, soak in some nice springs, have a nice experience, maybe do some meditation, and just have this kind of like home where I welcome people, throughout the year, just different friends, different family. And of course, I'll always want my alone time, but yeah, I want to get a place so that way, hopefully, you'll have a place that you can visit.
Oh, absolutely. And I guess you don't drink sake or anything like that, right?
I don't drink sake, but once in a while. The other day I had a beer. Once in a while.
You gotta
I'm
have
not like
Sapporo. You have to have Sapporo with sushi. I mean, it brings out the flavor. It's like having a glass of red wine with Italian food. You gotta have Sapporo with sushi, right? Has to happen.
I totally get it. These beers is pretty good sometimes with some of the food. So there was actually like a barbecue that somebody had. That's why I ended up having a beverage. And I'm not like, I treat my body really good, like 90 something percent of the time, and then I have my little off days. I don't try to get too crazy.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
Well, brother, I had fun. It's been what, 2 years since I've interviewed you?
Man, it's been a while.
It's been a long time.
And hopefully there's I really hope to bring more good stuff. I mean, right now there's this new technology in Japan that will allow you to grow new teeth.
I heard this, and supposedly also in Israel.
The Japanese are the ones who discovered it, and they are running trials right now. But that's kind of a new technology that's coming out of here. The hydrogen stuff has been doing some, like, honestly, just some bonkers, amazing stuff. And that's something that we already have access to now. I mean, you can literally have a hydrogen device in your home. And the anti-aging of it, the purification of the blood. But the big one is how it's affecting the pineal gland. That's actually something that I never expected to see from hydrogen. And now it's becoming very clear that it's actually a huge part.
Well, you're transitioning over to the other side. That's probably got something to do with it.
Yeah, I think that's actually exactly what's going on. There's a huge spiritual component because hydrogen ultimately is light. And everything that's happening here on planet Earth is originating from the light that came from the heavens or the cosmos. So even like the sunlight takes time for it to travel here, but it was born or became, yeah, born in this other place. And hydrogen is interdimensional, by the way. That's why I believe it connects you to all these different places. But it took a while of me using it that really affected, me in this positive way.
Awesome. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take notes the next time you cross over to the other side and you come right back. Start taking notes of what your experience was, because that's going to be the next podcast you and I will have, maybe in a week or two. How often do you go cross over? How often do you come back? Let me know.
Well, I go meditate every day, but some days are better than others because it really requires a lot of practice.
Yeah, I'm sure. Just try to describe, be very descriptive, and write some notes down on exactly what it is you're seeing, experiencing, etc.
I remember it all. Every journey. Here's one little thing I'll share with you before you go. When you sing a song, have you ever wondered, or even when you're talking, do you really wonder how you remember the words or how do you remember a song? And you're like, well, I must remember it in my brain somewhere. But Don't you remember? Well, actually, I know the song by heart.
Interesting.
And on the other side, when they give me information, I mean, it's massive amounts of information, like in 1 second. They'll give me a whole download and it's all in my heart. I got it all in my heart. I remember all of it because it's easy.
Do you have a conversation with them regarding the United States of America? Is the United States of America going to fall, or is it going to survive? Do you have any conversations like that?
No, those are very yes and no. There's things that they show me. A lot of times I'd ask some questions, but for the most part, they just give me lots of information that's very important and pertinent. And a lot of it is stuff that the average person doesn't know. I mean, we're only living a life, again, you're less than 100 years old. Your window of time of what you see and are experiencing is very small compared to the information that they have to give. And there's a lot, like your spirit, like lives that you've lived, things that you've been through that you don't even remember right now, Mel. You're living a very piece of a much bigger piece. And once you start seeing the bigger picture, you understand the little pictures also. It's a little shocking to me how asleep some people are. Like, I just can't believe when they can't see what's right in front of them.
Yeah.
But this is an important one, but I see more people waking up now than ever before, which is a really positive thing too, because I've been living very awake for a very long time. So it's been very nice for me to see people waking up. And I know that there's very good things to come. We just hope that we can get through it, because as you know, there's a lot of forces that are trying to keep it from happening.
Think about this for a second. Go back to the 1950s. Go back to the 1940s. Look at the film. Back then, everybody was nice and skinny. Everybody was healthy. And fast forward to 2024 and look at the contrast. Look at the difference.
Well, that's what I'm telling you.
Nobody stops for 1 second and says, wait a minute, who did this to us? How did we get here? Who's poisoning us? Nobody.
That's why Kennedy is such a huge part of this piece. Because
RFK is going to clean the food. He's going to clean the air. He's going to clean the soil. There's going to be strict laws. You cannot even have a bottle of glyphosate in your garage. If you do, if you get busted with 29 kilos of cocaine, you'll do less time than if you get busted with a bottle of, glyphosate and Roundup.
But absolutely, man. I mean, I'm grateful for him. I'm just grateful for people who love America, who love people, who want to do good things, because that's really what matters and is important.
Brother, I'm from another country. I wanted to always come to America. I knew that from what I saw on television and what my uncle made millions of dollars here, etc. Became a multi-millionaire about 27 times over. He's got one apartment building. He's got 220 apartments, or 212 actually. The other one's got like 89 apartments. One is like a Section A, and the other one's regular, ordinary apartment in West Orange. Made a ton of money from pizzas. The guy makes $27 million. You know what I mean? The American dream. America is privileged citizenship. It's the best country in the world. But how the hell do we get here? They want to turn us into communism? No. You're in the wrong place. It ain't happening. I will bet everything, and I have amassed quite a bit of stuff, that for this transference of wealth, whatever, gold, silver, XRP, XLM, XDC, dinars, dongs, zims, all the stuff. I'm in the casino. I place a bet everywhere, okay? And I could tell you that Amber and I are going to be very wealthy people. I would bet my entire whatever it is I have that's going to become billions of dollars for sure. Okay, on the fact that this is not going to happen in America. Communism is not going to get. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Simple.
That sounds good to me.
Brother, we'll catch you on the next one, guys. I had a really this is gonna go viral for sure. Because last time I had you on, but they're holding me back, brother. Even Rumble is holding me back. But you guys can change that. But pretty soon we're gonna have something up our sleeve that is gonna change all of that for sure, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Stay behind.